Today, we're going to talk about how To The Moon could go horribly wrong for you, especially if you're buying into the graded Weiss Schwarz markets right now at these ridiculous prices and ridiculous multipliers, and how you could draw these parallels between this and the Pokemon bubble that happened in the past 2 years. Alright, so before I go into the data points and draw the comparisons between this and the Pokemon market, I'm first going to explain to you what this picture is about. I use all these stupid pictures and memes because I'm a more visual person, and I feel like for me personally, I learn a lot better when I'm able to visualize these things, which is why I make these visuals so that you're able to understand these concepts a lot better, as well as having fun while we're at it, right? So this masterpiece right here is my Mona Lisa. It's my visual representation of what the Weiss Schwarz market is right now, mainly the graded Weiss Schwarz market. Imagine yourself in the scene. You're Mike Wachowski and you're living in Poundtown USA on Earth, right? So you're on the ground level, and every single person that's shilling for these cards, pumping these graded cards, pumping these holy grails, they're the Pepe the Clowns, they're the Doge, they're all To The Moon, and they're entering the stratosphere. They're already in a different galaxy, right? So you're on the ground level here if you're thinking about buying these cards, or if you already bought them. And these people are literally in the next galaxy. And the main point of this depiction, memes aside, is that there is zero chance you will go to the moon with these people because they already shilled it all the way up to times 20, times 50 the price. And you're thinking when you're buying these graded cards, thinking that they're a great investment when there's absolutely zero chance for you to ever catch up to these people. And if you bought these items, you're pretty much getting taken to Pound Town. And I like to draw parallels between this and comparisons to real life scenarios, real life finance things, right? Remember all your friends that were talking about crypto, Bitcoin, all that other bullshit like Dogecoin, To The Moon, game stocks, Wall Street bets, and all that stuff. Everyone thought they were investors. Remember all those people that suddenly all shut the fuck up in the recent few months afterwards? It's because everyone's trying to get in on the ground floor and go to the moon with everyone else, right? But what you need to realize is by the time people are talking about it and telling you to get into the ground floor, it's because they have incentive to rope you into these things. And by the time you hear about it, most likely, most of the time, it's already too late. And all your friends that were talking about how they were going to the moon, they all shut the fuck up. Do you know why? It's because they all bought in at these times 20, times 50, times 100 the price, thinking that they were going to the moon and they were being smart, when they're pretty much getting roped into these Ponzi pyramid schemes, and they all shut up because they lost most of their money. And when you're watching my channel, I want you to realize that I'm not here to tell you what's going to be the next big thing, what's going to be stocks, because no one knows. No one has a crystal ball. You can make educated guesses when you have a lot of research in these markets, but you should never listen to all these people hyping up these markets, telling you, oh yeah, get in now and go to the moon, because most of the time, these are scams and they have incentive to rope you into these things because they already are invested in it, which is why by them roping you into it, being interested in it, they're able to sell these things back out into the market because they benefit from it. And you have to realize that. All right, so let's get into the meat of this topic. That sounds really weird. I'm going to plug another Weiss Schwarz YouTuber, and his name is TCG, and he actually did a really good video recently showing the data points in regards to the PSA reports when it comes to Japanese graded cards, and he draws the parallels between that and English graded cards. And I'll leave a link in the description box of this video so you could check out the video if you want to actually see all the data points when it comes to graded cards and pretty much the grades that are coming back both in English and in Japanese sets. Because there's channels like TCG that goes over like the collector side and investment side specifically to these card games. Whereas for me, I make my videos so that I can educate you and just teach you these concepts of seeing patterns in markets like Weiss Schwarz or card games in general. So that when you watch these videos and you learn these concepts and you're able to spot these patterns, you could apply it to different parts of your life, whether it's finance, economics, or even buying things like a car or a house or something like that, right? Once you're able to see these patterns and you're able to apply these concepts, you'll be able to be just a better consumer overall when you're buying things. Like you look at things like, if something's getting pushed so hard as being a sale or a great deal, maybe I should look into it a little bit deeper and look at like the price histories and whatnot to realize, hey, sometimes these don't make sense. So on the surface, you might look at, okay, maybe the main point of this is that, oh, all English Weiss cards are pretty much PSA 10s and high quality cards, whereas in Japanese Weiss Schwarz cards, the chances of them getting PSA 10s are a lot lower, so maybe the card stock quality is different, right? What I want you to see out of this data points and when you check out his video is that there is a crazy amount of these cards that are being graded and continuously being graded, and they're probably still in the queue to be graded. I don't talk about these specific numbers and deep dive into these numbers because it's just so obvious, right? I point out the obvious and then people try to tell me that, oh, you just don't do your research or whatever it is. Well, here you go. Here's the data, right? If you just apply a little bit of common sense to it, you will see all these parallels to pretty much comparisons that you could run between this and the Pokemon market. And then once you see it, it's like, wow, I was a fucking idiot for not seeing this, right? I want you to realize that most of these cards are all PSA 10s and PSA 9s, mostly PSA 10s. And when you see everything for the lower grade, most of the time, I would assume it's probably the junk cards like the SRRs, commons, or whatever it is that people are grading. And again, I draw your attention to the fact that Pokemon went through the same market in the past 2 years where it had the hype and then it went to the moon and then it crashed down when all these junk slabs and all these graded cards went into the market. So what's the pattern that I want you to see, right? So I'll draw your attention to this Charizard VMAX, which was from a Shining Fates set. Shining Fates was released in 2021. And this was the stonks cards. This is when the Pokemon boom happened, right? In the beginning of 2021, end of 2020, where like for the past 2 years, like I keep mentioning the 2-year data point, right? So for the past 2 years, these things were going crazy. These cards were raw being sold for like, $500, $600, $700, $800, right? And then people were buying into the hype because of all these people shilling for like, oh, this is going to be the next thing going to the moon. Again, I keep drawing parallels to how if everyone is going to the moon, are you really going to the moon? And everyone did all these like mental gymnastics, like, oh, everyone's gonna be nostalgic for Charizard 30 years later on. You don't understand and all this other bullshit. Charizard's iconic. But let's just look at the numbers, right? So the most recent sales for PSA 10s for these cards, $300-$400, like, $500 at max. Whereas previously you were buying these cards raw for $500. And then let's look at the actual price history as to how high these things are. So at the beginning of 2021, these things were almost $4,000. So think about it, right? This car is like less than $200 now. So it's almost 20 times the price almost, right? And then you kind of draw parallels to how I keep talking about how the Weiss Schwarz multipliers make 0 sense at all. And if you're buying these cards at these times 15 times 20 multipliers, you're being taken as a fool. And let's look at the price history, right? So it was at $4,000 at some point almost, and at PSA 10s, and then this card was being sold at stonks prices for $500, $600, $700, right? So even at like, let's say $500, that's times 8 the price. And we're gonna disregard the fact that right now the card is down to like almost less than $150 or less than that. And then the price over the course of 2 years just trends down, 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 and it's all the way down to $300 now. So let's think about it, right? When a card raw is $150 and you tell me maybe it demands double the price, and then, that's what it is and that's what a PSA 10 is, I could kind of see that. But if you're the type of person that you're paying for times 20, times 15, times whatever ridiculous, times 100 multiplier, what's next, right? Then you have to be very, very careful. Unless you're, this is just a drop in a bucket for you and thousands of dollars mean nothing, then, you have to be very careful. And I want to draw your attention to, again, right? Remember how if you watch his video, you'll see that there's a bajillion of these cards being submitted. There's a bajillion PSA 10s out there that you haven't even seen on the market yet. So if you're the one buying these things at times 20 the price, you're getting taken to Poundtown and you don't even know it, because there's so many of these graded cards, and you draw the same parallels to the Pokemon market where no one wanted to listen to reason. No one wanted to listen to anyone just saying, oh, it's not stonks, and everyone just calls them idiots, right? Everyone calls me an idiot right now talking about Weiss Schwarz. And you'll see that pretty much it's in the same type of boom and same type of hype, and the people that bought into these cards at like these times 20 price multipliers, they got taken to Poundtown USA. And you have to remember, right, the fact that there's so many of these being graded, you have to do some research and realize when a lot of these grades, like between 9s and 10s and black labels, at some point they get gatekept to be getting, you know, these certain grades, and they're harder to get because there needs to be population control, which is another topic in itself as well too, where you have to be careful where you're paying a premium between a 9 and a 10 when it might not even be worth it, and they're all pretty much the same. So this Charizard VMAX card was going to the moon, right? And everyone thought that they were someone smart because they're investing in Charizard. I want you to look at this population report after 2 years and see that there's pretty much over 4,200 of these out there that are graded, and 3,500 of them are all PSA 10s, and the remaining of them PSA 9. So pretty much based on this data point, you'll see that they're all PSA 9s and all PSA 10s. And this is not even including how many people are sitting on top of these Charizards in their binders, in their collections that they haven't submitted to grading yet, or even the ones that are waiting to be graded. Which also does not include the fact that this is only PSA, it's not Beckett, not CGC, not all these other grading companies. So you could probably multiply this by times 3 times 4 times 5 or whatever it is, right? But if you're the person that bought one car for times 20 the price, you have to realize there's a bajillion of these out there. And if you're looking to sell it later on, hoping that it retains the price, you're in for a rude awakening. And I'll give you one more example of the Pokemon market parallel, where at some point it was hyped up that, oh, this Pikachu VMAX Rainbow was going to the moon, right? At TCG Player, you only see like up to 1 year. It was like $300 or whatever it is at some point. And now it's all the way down to around 200, which 170 to 200, which is not, you know, too crazy, right? So again, the price points are always between like around $100 to $300. And then we look at the PSA 10 reports on the prices, where currently they're trending for around $500 for a PSA 10, right? And then again, we look at the price history and we look at how it's not as crazy as a Charizard, but at some point these PSA 10s were going for like up to like $2,500 to $3,000 just for a PSA 10. And just looking at the chart alone with just PSA, for example, you'll see how volatile these markets are, where it's constantly going up and down. So if you're buying for some of these prices, then, you know, you're unless you could afford to lose the money, then you have to be very, 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 very careful. And again, I want to draw your attention to the numbers, right? So again, there's literally 4,000 of these graded, and you're not accounting for the ones that people are sitting on top of that are not graded. And out of the 4,000 of them, half of them are PSA 10s, and the rest of them are all PSA 9s. Think about that. And I want you to think of Pokemon as a timeline between 2020 and 2022. So roughly a 2 to 3 year time span per se, right? And it all happened because of the Rona or whatever it is. And then you look at how everything was going to the moon when everything started, Logan Paul and all that other bullshit. And then, you know, everyone thought that they were the smartest investors. Everyone was buying, and then everyone was disregarding reason. You see all these pretty much backpack sellers and people in their mom's basements buying cases, and like pallets of this shit, and then loading it up in their apartments, like studio apartments, where they pretty much already have no living space, and then they have like boxes and boxes of sealed products going to the ceiling. And then we look at a 2-year timeline span where, again, I showed you the pretty much the price chart on the PSA 10 Charizards as an example, right? Where something went from $4,000 times 20 times 15 the price, and then it crashed all the way down to pretty much like a fraction of it. Take note of that. And then I want you to replace the idea of Pokemon with Weiss Schwarz, and you put that on the same timeline where you're pushing it back by 1 year because of the boom of Weiss Schwarz happened mostly in 2021. So if we push that timeline back to 1 year, you'll realize that we're in the same market as Pokemon, where everyone at that 1 year lag was pretty much grading their cards. Same thing in Weiss Schwarz right now, grading cards. Everyone's going to the moon. All these people coming in trying to sweep up everything because everything is stonks and buying everything at all these peak prices. Think about that. And then think about all the people that buy some of these cards like this Roxy for like $4,000 or $5,000, right? So again, times 15, times 20 the price. And then think about how that timeline is lagged by 1 year. And you'll realize that most likely within the next 2 to 3 years, depending on how long it lasts, you're buying in at this higher entry price point where your cost basis ratio is a lot higher than some of these people that bought it at like, $100 or $200 per card, right? But you're getting taken for a sucker when you're buying at times 20, times 30, times 50 the price. Again, it's impossible to predict the future, right? I don't know, like 2 years from now, you might call me a dickhead and come back and say that I was wrong or whatever it is. But for the people who watch my videos, I want you to realize that when you're buying at these ridiculous multipliers of times 20, times 50, you have to be very, very, very careful because you could draw all these parallels to other markets that pretty much taught a lot of these people lessons where all these stonks investors in the Pokemon market, a lot of people lost their shirts. A lot of people ended up, swiping these things on credit cards and are sitting on like piles of these products, ETBs and all this stuff because they thought it was going to the moon when they couldn't afford to lose that money and were spending money that they didn't have on things that they didn't need and in markets that they do not understand. So if there's one takeaway from this, I want you to realize that same as how in the Pokemon market where there's thousands of these cards being graded, I want you to think about that the same way when it comes to Weiss Schwarz, where there's a bajillion of these out there and there's a bajillion of people sitting on top of these things. And before you pay that price tag of times 20, times 50, realize that you could draw parallels to the Pokemon market, but you also have to realize that for the most part, Weiss Schwarz cards are all pristine condition cards. So the fact that you're paying a premium for these graded cards is questionable. But that's it for today. I'm uploading a little bit more because I guess since I see a lot of movement in these markets, I feel like I need to post these videos so that people are just aware of what's happening. And the more I spread this message, maybe I could help 1 or 2 people out before they spend like times 20 the price on some of these cards. And thank you everyone that's been subscribing to the channel as well as liking the videos and letting me know in the comments that you enjoy the content. I know that I've mentioned that I really have no delusions that I'm gonna become like a big YouTuber or whatever it is. And for everyone that actually continues to watch my videos, I'm really appreciative of it. And I hope I show that when I reply to you as well as when I make these videos. Because at the end of the day, when I make these videos, I hope that you, again, could apply these concepts to things outside of card games, outside of collectibles or whatever it is. And you could use these ideas and principles to just kind of analyze other markets to just improve your life, whether it's through investing, finance, or just learning how to save your money and whatnot. And if I haven't won you over yet for people that just came across my videos or haven't subscribed yet in general, I just hope over time that I do win you guys over and do show you that I'm making a lot of this content just to have fun as well as to just teach people about just finance and just concepts in general to be able to apply these things to all aspects of your life because I think these things are very, very important. Thank you for watching the video. Have a great day.